Well, Lavrov also said that US Secretary of State John Kerry believes that neo-Nazi group, the Right Sector, is on the verge of becoming a real political movement in Ukraine. The group has recently been condemned by Brussels, with the timing of the criticism causing some confusion, as RT's Polly Boyko reports.
Catherin Ashdown has denounced Right Sector. She's calling on them to refrain from violence, to give up their arms, and to basically stop behaving undemocratically. Now, this is a group that right now is besieging the parliament in Kiev, calling on the Interior Minister to resign. So finally, we have an admission from the EU that there are some very dangerous forces amongst those that brought about the coup in Ukraine. But the timing of this statement is nuanced, to say the least. Throughout this crisis in Ukraine, the US and the EU have been very much in support of the protest movement. The then Foreign Minister of Germany even went to Maidan to pledge his support. That's despite the fact that Russia has repeatedly called on its Western partners to reassess the situation, to take a look at who it is they're supporting. But Right Sector now, it has become a major violent force in Ukraine. The arms that Catherin Ashdown was talking about are allegedly stolen by Right Sector from weapons depots during the unrest. They're linked to violence against anti-Maidan activists, to deaths in eastern Ukraine. And the group's leader, well, he's wanted in Russia for instigating acts of terrorism. And this is a man, by the way, that's running for presidency in Ukraine. So it's only now that the violent part of this coup is over that we get this admission from the EU's foreign policy chief that things may not be as rosy as they initially would have you believe.
Wow, things in the Ukraine really are becoming confusing. Catherin Ashdown, who is in this picture with Van Rompuy, and it looks like Van Rompuy is trying to stop people taking a picture. No doubt because being that ugly, she gives the EU a bad name. Well, she is the High Representative of the Union for Foreign Affairs and Security Policy. She is an unelected bureaucrat. Another one. Well, she's now criticising the same neo-Nazis that the EU and America funded to overthrow the democratically elected government in Ukraine. She's criticising them for being too violent. These are the very same neo-Nazis that were killing their own people with snipers. Shouldn't come as much of a surprise that they're violent, Catherin. You fucking idiot. I bet they'll soon start talking about how they might have to have boots on the ground in Ukraine because of these neo-Nazis, just like they've spoken about Syria because Al-Qaeda are in that country. Well, of course they are. They've armed, funded and trained them and put them into Syria. What do you expect? The criticism is just a show. It's a very poor attempt for the EU to distance themselves from the very people they forced and backed into power. But it's too late, Ashdown. We know what you've done, and trying to distract us all with your ugliness simply isn't gonna work.